In order to decide what exit strategy is right for you, you have to understand all of the things that are important to you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the KTS Success Factor podcast for women, where we talk about challenges senior female leaders face in being happy and successful at work. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah E. Brown. My guest today is Chris Vanderzyden. She is an author, speaker, and leading educator on exit planning and mergers and acquisitions. She is a founding partner of Legacy Partners LLP, a mergers and acquisition advisory firm dedicated to serving privately held middle market business owners to create and execute successful exit strategies, resulting in the harvesting and preservation of wealth. She's the author of the best-selling book, 7 Steps to Entrepreneurial Victory, and her latest book, which we're going to talk about today, Master Your Exit Plan, Sell Your Business, Preserve Your Legacy. Chris, welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
So I have to ask, this is a very interesting niche. How did you get interested in exit planning?
Well, I am truly a serial entrepreneur, and Legacy Partners is actually my third business. I built ground up, and I've actually sold 2 of my previous businesses. And my first business that I sold, I was in my early 30s, and I was a CPA. I had a really heavy finance background coming from PricewaterhouseCoopers. And we sold a company. We made every mistake in the book. And so that was my intro into mergers and acquisitions and finding out what is the correct process to go through so that you're not taking advantage of the buyers that are out there. So that's kind of how I got in the field. And now it's been decades later, and I've been helping privately held business owners grow and exit their business. And now it's really an important topic because just by demographics alone, all the baby boomers are getting ready to retire, and often that will mean an exit from a business.
Mm-hmm. So you talk about the importance of thinking and planning ahead of time, and you call this an exit plan. But what exactly is a master exit plan?
Yeah, there are a lot of people out there who talk about exit planning. And what we do here at Legacy Partners, we create master exit plans because we look at the business owner in a very comprehensive fashion. Most people who say that they're exit planners, they are really focused on the transaction. And oftentimes they are mergers and acquisition people or investment bankers, and they're focused on just the transaction. But there's so much more to an entrepreneur. So what we do is we create a master exit plan that addresses the business owner's business, personal, and financial goals. Because without having all of those parts of themselves aligned, the chances of them not being successful exiting their business are pretty sky high. So it does create it requires a comprehensive view of the business owner in order to do it successfully.
What exactly are the risks associated with not creating one?
Oh, dear. The biggest risk that we see now is that business owner does not plan for their exit. And then they're confronted with either typically one or two things. One being they're approached by a buyer directly, and they engage with that buyer, and they're not able to sell their business. Something comes up and they're not able to sell the business, or they're not even able to attract a buyer because they've not planned on an exit and they've not positioned the company correctly. The second big thing that's happening is that a business owner has a health crisis. And they're not able to run the business. And there's some significant risk in that. I mean, you could spend years or decades working on a business. And then if you have something like that happen and your business shuts down, everything you've worked for in creating that asset gets wiped out. So there are significant risks to not planning. And there's also the other risks, not being able to sell the company or going through a transaction and not strategizing for tax mitigation purposes, not having proper estate planning performed. So there's a lot of various things, but mostly it's the concern of not being able to exit successfully and get a return on investment.
So I've read your book, Master Your Exit Plan, and in it, you outline 6 exit strategies. So tell our listeners what they are and how they go about deciding which is best for them.
Yeah. I mean, the six most primary exit strategies that we talk about are, sometimes there'll be a family members, or maybe it's a family succession. Of course, taking a business public is a big, sexy exit, but, very difficult to do. You have to have quite a growth trajectory that you could prove to be able to go public. So that's not very common. An employee stock ownership plan. It used to be used much more in previous years, not so much anymore, but it's a valid exit strategy. You typically, a bigger company will do that, 300 plus employees. So an ESOP, management buyout. And then, of course, there's closing. You can close the door on the business. That's an easy, quick way to exit a business and verifiable. And then the most common is to do a sale to either a financial or a strategic buyer. That's the most common, and that's the most sought after, because that's typically where you get the highest return on investment for an entrepreneur. And then I'll say a subset of the sale to a third party is you could do what's called a recapitalization, in which you sell part of your business and retain an equity position. There's a variety of different ways to exit that way, but very popular, and we're involved in a lot of those types of transactions today.
Hi, this is Sarah Brown again, the host of the KTS Success Factor podcast for women. I hope you are enjoying this episode and gaining some tips and inspiration on how you can be happier, more successful, and experience less stress at work. If you would like to learn more about how you can empower the women in your organization to do the same, simply click on the show notes to see how you can connect with me. As an added bonus for my podcast guests, you will see how you can book 30 minutes with me to explore how you can implement a scalable self-coaching program for the women in your organization. Simply visit bookachatwithsarahebrown.com. Now back to this informative episode. How do you go about deciding which one is the best for you?
That's where having a master exit plan comes into play, because in order to decide what exit strategy is right for you, you have to understand all of the things that are important to you and deciding how you want to exit that business. You also have to understand the value of the company and integrate that value into your personal financial plan. And you have to have a comprehensive financial plan done in which you are projecting, after I exit my business, this is what I want my life to look like. And this is what the financial responsibility will be with that. And so if I sell my business, will I be able to fulfill those business, personal, and financial goals? So in order to determine which one is right, you really have to do extensive planning. We've worked with many clients who thought they were going to do a family succession. And we get into this process, we value the company. And then, of course, when you do a family succession, typically there's a family discount, right? So you're going to sell it for less than you could get on the open market. So therefore, we found out that the money that they would get in selling it to a family member was not going to be enough to support their future financial goals. So we ended up doing the recapitalization I spoke of. We sold the business to a financial buyer. The business owner bought back an equity interest at close, and then ended up giving that interest to the family member that was involved in the business. So in that situation, we looked at a couple of different exit options, and then came up with the right one that would fulfill their goals, both financially and with the business and personal.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great example. So thank you for sharing that. So this book is very accessible. It's very easy to understand. And regardless of where you are in thinking about the process, the information that you need is here. And one of the things that you outline in here are 7 steps to selling a business. You want to recap them for our listeners here?
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody tends to believe that selling a business is probably going to be just like selling a home, right? But that's not quite true. We have a very different process for M&A. And of course, it begins with understanding the value of the company and then preparing the documentation once they've identified their pool of buyers. And so step one, I would say, would be prepare the documentation. And then the purpose of the documentation, which is much more than your tax returns and financial statements, once you prepare that documentation, the purpose of it is to send it out to a pool of buyers. So the whole purpose of doing it correctly is to engage with multiple buyers. Because if your listeners remember anything from this podcast, I would want them to remember one buyer is no buyer. The purpose is to engage with multiple buyers because that's the way you're going to fulfill your goals to a higher level. So the second step would to engage in the auction process with multiple buyers. Then there's a step in which you'll have management meetings. So you'll meet the buyer will meet you. You're both. It's kind of like a first date. You want each other to like each other, but you want to be truthful and want to see if it's a good fit and if we can knit the buyer and seller together for future success. And then the fourth step you have for a call of offers. They come in the form of a letter of intent. The offers are negotiated. Once you have picked your buyer, you sign the letter of intent that basically says to the buyer that I am focused on you. You will be my buyer for all intents and purposes now. Non-binding, you are committing to going into due diligence, which is the sixth step. And then the final step is closing. And that's the final negotiation of the definitive purchase agreement. And also part of that is the warranties, reps, and indemnifications, which your attorney will help you on. So that's the 7 steps. So it's a little more intense than selling a business, but it's well worth doing it correctly.
Well, a lot more than selling a home, but I get a real estate agent to sell my home. And I would guess that when I'm ready to sell this business, I would probably engage with someone like you to help me on that as well. So tell us a little bit about the services that Legacy Partners LLP provides to women who might be interested in selling their business.
Well, what we do is we create, as we've been saying, a comprehensive master exit plan so that the business owner understands the value of the company, the steps that they can engage in order to improve value or get the business positioned to attract buyers, integrates the financial plan, and we look at the estate plan and talk to them about the post-ownership options. So you want to create a master exit plan. That's the first step, and that's primarily what we do. Now, we do have M&A advisory services, which means that we advise the client through the process as an independent advisor. So sometimes we'll have clients who will work with another investment bank. We always vet the right provider that we think will service our clients the best. And then we advise them through that process. So they have somebody who is only looking at their best interests. And it's very important to recognize that you do need somebody that is going to be on your side of the fence. There's nothing worse for a business owner after they have a transaction. They wonder, was my representative really, were they on my side or were they on the buyer's side? That's not a good feeling. So we do the master exit plan first, and then we will work with them to go through the M&A side and advise them as they wish.
Got it. And so where would they find you?
We are at Legacy Partners LLP. That's 2 L's and 1 P. So legacypartnersllp.com. And of course, my name is Chris Vanderzyden, and I'm fairly Googleable and on LinkedIn.
Terrific.
Yeah.
So Chris, thank you so much for being with us today.
I appreciate you having me, Sarah, and spreading the good word and helping all those entrepreneurs out there.
Thanks for listening to the KTS Success Factor podcast for women. If you like what you are hearing, please go to iTunes to subscribe, rate us, and leave a review. And if you would like more information on how we can help women in your organization to thrive, then go to www.sarahebrown.com. You can sign up for our newsletter, read show notes and learn more about our podcast guests, read my blog, browse through the books, or contact us for a chat. Goodbye for now.